Now, many students have heard the advice to strive to come across as authentically as possible in their college applications. And that is fantastic advice, but how? Today, I want to talk to you about 3 methods to incorporate authenticity as a habit in your writing for the Common App and UC App essays, as well as when describing your extracurriculars and awards. Now, I spent 20 years in semiconductor technical sales and business development in Silicon Valley, and I can tell you that many people in that business will rely on the reputation of their company and the stats of their product to get them in the door and propel them forward to making significant business deals of tens or even hundreds of millions of dollars. But my experience tells me that that may get you in the door, but it is almost never sufficient to securing a significant business deal. In order to secure those deals, you need a personal relationship with decision makers that is based on trust. And trust comes from authenticity. Now, the business world is very analogous to the college applications world and many other parts of your life as well. In order for you to get over the finish line in highly competitive situations, you're going to need something beyond your stats of your GPA, your SAT, your awards, and even the reputation of your school or various programs that you've been involved in. You are going to need to find a way to establish a personal connection virtually through your application with the admissions officer who is reading your app. And in order to do that, and in order to build a bond of trust with that reader through your application, you must come across as an authentic person to whom they can relate and a person they trust that they can see moving forward with in their application process. So let's talk about 3 distinct ways to incorporate authenticity into your writing. The first and primary way that I recommend for virtually every student that I interact with is to organize your application profile into 3 key messages about you. And you may think, but I've been involved in 14 different activities and I have a lot of different things going on and a whole long laundry list. How can I have 3 messages? What I'm talking about are not resume elements. I'm talking about big picture messaging. So if you think in terms of a triangle, 3 different triangles, we're talking about the tip of the triangle. A noun, a verb, or a short phrase that is a fairly high level, 10,000 foot message about you. Under that phrase, we are going to have a whole host of evidence, anecdotes, stories from your academic, your extracurricular, your volunteering, your personal hobbies, all of these elements of your life to support that message. The kinds of words that I have seen are vast and very personal to the student themselves, but some things might be critical thinker, team player, enthusiastic, advocate for a particular group, internationally focused, public speaker, leader, mentor, caring. These are very broad brush terms, but they serve as an organizing principle to take all of your anecdotes and evidence and put them together. Why do we care about 3 messages? We care because it is very difficult for people who are reading an application, reading an essay, to connect all the dots unless they are connected for them. You want to make it as easy as possible for the reader to clearly and easily understand what you bring to the table that makes you credible and qualified and makes you differentiated versus your peers. So we need a concise and simple message so that they can easily get the picture of what you bring to the table. And it's a clean organizing principle for the very short word count you have in the essays and for the very short amount of time that those essays will be reviewed by an admissions officer. The second recommendation I have is that students do an incredibly deep dive into their personal experiences throughout their high school years. They absolutely must understand different anecdotes and stories from their academic life. Your transcript and GPA should not do all the talking about that for you. Instead, you should talk about a specific project, even if it's unrelated to your major. Maybe you took a different angle on that project. Maybe you played a different role in that classroom. Maybe you had a different learning experience on a particular topic. All of these academic adjacent concepts can be used as evidence in support of those three key messages. Of course, we also want to pull from our extracurriculars, which are often a good way to show our soft skills, our leadership, or things that we care about that are more globally focused, community focused, focus on groups of people that are not us. So we want to turn the lens outward and show what we care about as a student, because that may align with what that university wants to have on their campus. The biggest thing with talking about your experiences as evidence for each of those messages is to avoid generalities and ambiguities like the plague. Virtually eliminate any word that could be described as a generality from your essay and your overall app. So the best way to do that and to avoid any use of that is to incorporate specificity. Specificity includes numbers almost always, as well as personal names or building names or names of places. So we want to incorporate a lot of rich detail. Why? Because rich detail is what engages a reader. It takes the reader into your life immediately. They are in the scenario you're in. They are going to feel a bond. They are going to relate to you. And through those acts, through those feelings, they are going to be more inclined to understand you and move forward with you from a sense of trust and connection. So to build trust and connection, we incorporate a lot of specificity into evidence and anecdotes from all aspects of our profile. That's the second tip. My third tip is so simple, you'll think that you don't really need to do it, but I assure you it will help you if you do it. And that is to read your writing out loud. Not in your head, not off the screen, nothing like that. Read everything you've written out loud. When you read out loud, as if the admissions officer were sitting across the table from you, you incorporate a different rhythm and cadence and style to saying your words out loud that make them more relatable. So if you have a sense that something is off in your writing as you're trying to say it out loud, that's the time to fix it. So we want to come across as relatable with vocabulary that's easy to understand, elevated, but easy to understand. And we want it to be conversational. We want it to be very flowing so that the reader can easily understand what you're trying to say. So that's the third tip, is to read your writing out loud and to make it as smooth and conversational as possible, as if you are writing a script to have a conversation with the admissions officer. So if you can incorporate these three concepts into your writing, I guarantee you your feeling of authenticity will go up dramatically. You will be much more inclined to form a virtual bond, a personal connection of trust with the reader, with the admissions officer, and no major decisions in life are made without that personal connection and that sense of trust. And authentic writing is absolutely key to bringing that home for you. I'm Susan with Type A Essays. Thanks for listening.